Greetings, coaches. You're listening to the All Access Coaching Podcast powered by the Glazier Drive. My name is Rick Stewart, and I created All Access Coaching with the vision of coaches helping coaches, which is why I partner with the folks at Glazier, because we share the same vision, which is focused on one thing, making you a better coach. This is hosted by allaccesscoaching.com. I want to take a minute to introduce you to our sponsor for today's episode, Rack Coach. Rack Coach gives coaches an easy-to-use online tool for creating, customizing, and efficiently tracking your strength and conditioning program. Their audio-visual timers drive weight room efficiency and tempo, which kind of ties into today's talks because Coach is going to talk about saving time and efficiency in practice. Well, Rack Coach does the same thing in the weight room and empowers you as a coach to have more time to focus on teaching and motivating. Visit them today at rackcoach.com. Really excited to have, I'm going to butcher his name, I know I am, but Coach Kasperowicz on the phone with us. Even though I live in California, some of you know my story. The last couple of years I've been real blessed to get flown back to Pennsylvania, and that's Coach's neck of the woods. Coach was the head coach at Pine Richland in Pennsylvania for 8 seasons at a pretty high level. I want to say 4A or 5A ball coach.
We were actually 6A, the highest level for my first 7 years, and then my last year we got moved to 5A because of enrollment.
Yep. Coach at the highest level then, and Pennsylvania is pretty good football. He's playing some good dudes. He has a career record of 85 wins and 18 losses. Coach won a Pennsylvania state title in 2020, which was the COVID year, but he had the undefeated 11-0 record. Max Preps had them ranked at number 14 in the country, and US Today had them ranked at number 24. They were also state champions in 2017 with a 16-0 record, and Max Preps had them ranked at number 10 in the country. Coach was the NFHS National Federation of High School Coaches. He was the Coach of the Year in 2018, National Coach of the Year, as well as the Pennsylvania State Coach of the Year. Coach was also a finalist for the U.S. Army All-American Bowl Coach of the Year honors. And now Coach is kind of taking a step back from the head coaching duties. He's got kids in high school. He wants to enjoy them. And Coach Sherry Jersey, Coach is now at Pitt. Pitt had an amazing season this year. They've got a bowl game. Their quarterback was a Heisman finalist, and he's now at Pitt. Coach, why don't you talk about that transition, going from high school ball, but I think you had a history before high school at Pitt, and then you did all this success in high school, and now you're at Pitt.
Yeah, no, I've had a great journey. I've been lucky enough to, I played at Pitt back in the late 90s, had a great career there. And right after that, got into high school, coached high school ball as an assistant for about 10 years. And then I was a head coach for 8 years up until 2020 last year. And then this past year, I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to go back down to Pitt as an offensive analyst. So it's my alma mater. It's right in my backyard. Worked with, Coach Narduzzi. Just being a part of that was incredible. I was with the quarterbacks and the offensive staff all year, and we're still there. We practice today. We actually have, bowl practices going on, and we'll be down in the Peach Bowl here in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. And then after that, we'll see what happens. I do have kids still in high school, whether I want to get back in the high school ranks. College football is awesome, but it's a different animal for sure. It's a business. So time will tell, we'll see, but it's been a great learning year for me just to learn from Coach Narduzzi and the staff and how they do things. So very blessed to be a part of that. And looking forward to finishing the year off right in the Peach Bowl. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Coach, what an adjustment. You play linebacker, had a good career on the defense side of the ball. You're known for your defenses. You have a bunch of courses up on CoachTube and on the Glazier Drive. That's kind of your forte, which is probably why the state championships, because they say defense wins championships. But here at Pitt, you were lucky to move to the offensive side, work really closely with that quarterback who's obviously going to be an NFL draft pick. What was that like, switching over to the offense? I'm sure there's some really cool things you've learned that you can take back when you do get back on the sidelines as a head coach.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. And I think if there's any advice I could give any young coaches out there, it's to coach both sides of the ball. I've become such a better coach now that I'm on the defensive side and back to the offense. I mean, to be honest, in high school, I was a quarterback. I also played safety, but I was a parade All-American quarterback. There was 10 of us, 10 parade All-American quarterbacks, and myself. Another name you guys might recognize is Peyton Manning, 1994. That's always my joke. He's had a pretty darn good career, and I'm coaching high school football and well, now college football, but I think he's done a little bit better for himself. But we were both in the Parade All-American quarterback 1994. So I was an offensive guy. Then I went to college. 2 weeks in as a quarterback, I got switched over to defense, had my whole career on the defensive side of the ball at Pitt. Once I got out and started coaching high school football, I was an offensive guy for the first 10 years as an assistant. And then my first 5 as a head coach at Pine Richland. I was the offense coordinator, called the plays, head coach, all that stuff. And then, what I alluded to earlier, Rick, is we played in the state championship in 2014. We scored 42 points and we lost the football game. So kind of ever since that day, as the head coach and as the play caller, I said to myself, we cannot score 42 and lose a game. So I kind of just put it on myself. Hey, if we're going to be in this situation again, I want to be the guy at least calling the defense, because I had some trusted assistants that have been with me for a long time that I think we'd be okay on the offensive side of the ball, that I'm going to go over there and figure out defense and go back and study that, even though I played it. And that's kind of was the transition. Bought into the 4-3. That's what I played in at Pitt. Coach Narduzzi just actually got hired at Pitt back in the mid I think around 2013 or so, right around this time. And so I was able to dive in and go learn from him and some of the things that they brought in from Michigan State. Kind of made it our own, and that's where we're at today. Just kind of said, hey, we're going to get on the defense side of the ball. And if we were going to lose, at least it'd be on me. It would be on me. And the rest is history. But I think, long story short, the better you can be on both sides of the ball. It's one thing to be an offensive specialist. That's great. But you got to know defensive football. You got to understand coverage and what they're trying to do to you, and vice versa. And I think that's just made me such a better, well-rounded coach on both sides of the ball, but, even a better head coach.
Coach, why the 4-3? The in vogue right now is the 4-2-5, Gary Patterson at TCU, and everybody was making that move. I know we did, and we really enjoy the flexibility. The 3-4, I think, is getting very popular again. Because I think guys really have to have a way in the secondary to match up with all these formations we see. So, Coach, why you hang your hat on the 4-3 versus, like, say, the 4-2-5 or the 3-4, or even the 3-3 stack?
Yeah. So, it is the 4-3, and it's like anything, we base out of the 4-3, but we're very quickly to get out of the 4-3 because of formations that are presented to us, as you alluded to. So anytime we get certain formations, and we end up turning into a 4-2-5 very quickly. But with that being said, we want to stop the run up here in Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania, especially, once you get about midseason, it gets cold, and I don't want to say it's hard to throw the ball, because offensively we're as spread as they get, and we still sling it around. But at the end of the day, again, I don't care what brand of ball you're facing, whether it's wing tee, spread, pistol, this, you got to be able to stop the run. So we're going to stop the run, and then we're going to figure out ways to stop. If they have a great quarterback and we got to stop the pass, well, at least we can make you, left-handed per se, and make you do something that, you don't necessarily want to do. So we're going to stop the run and then go from there. And I feel, just in my experience, the 4-3 is the best to do that. And to be honest, there's tons of great defenses. The stack's very in vogue, like you said. But I know the answers, to the 4-3. When you're be able to get me on, is there weaknesses to it? Sure. Is there weaknesses to the stack? Sure. Is there weaknesses to the, yes, but it's how well you as a coach know those weaknesses and can make the adjustments on the fly, is, I think, what it would ultimately entails how good a defense you play.
I'm going to take the mic here for a second, coaches. As some of you may or may not know, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I got thrown right to the Wolves, and I immediately became a head coach in an 0-24 program, and turned around, went to playoffs, and then an 0-27 program, turned them around, undefeated league champs, and then a really large school in California with 2,000 kids that never won a playoff game 100 years, and we got to the section or district championship a couple times. And Coach hit on the net. In my Worst to First program that's on the allaccesscoaching.com, I've got a bunch of courses on there, and I really talk about systems versus collection of plays, and Coach hit on the nail. I want to echo it. Coaches, there are lots of great offenses. In fact, name any offense, and I can find somebody who won a state championship running it. Even the old gosh darn single wing tee, triple option, spread, and name a defense. And there's somebody out there that's having a lot of success with odd and even fronts. I think the key is, coaches, you've got to hang your hat on something and stick with it, and don't be changing every year when you don't have a little bit of success and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You've got to, as a coach, hang your hat on a system. And the key is you've got to have answers for problems. It's not just, oh, I've got all these plays I'm studying and I can draw them all up with the best of them. Okay, what about the answers? And so I really believe that is find a system that you can coach, because your kids have to believe that you know it. And so I love that, what you just said, Coach. You said, hey, look, I was a linebacker in 4-3. I played in the 4-3. I don't need to learn another defense. I know the 4-3. And so that's what you did.
Yeah, and you said it. They're all good. There's all defenses are good. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. It's how well you know them and how well you can fix them. Yeah, and kind of like you mentioned, I got a lot of stuff up on CoachTube, a lot of stuff up on Glazier Drive. You can just search my name there. Totally break down the entire 4-3 from fronts and stunts, alignments, coverages, blitzes, 5-man pressure, 6-man pressures, all that good stuff. So really detailed stuff there. So feel free to hit that up, if you're interested.
Well, Coach, let's start it. Share your screen and let's start talking defense. These guys didn't tune in to hear us babbling, right? Let's talk some ball.
How's that look, Coach? You see
I'm looking at a picture of a game film right now. So maybe
Perfect.
you got probably a beginning slide.
Yep, I'm gonna go right to the game tape here, if that's okay, right?
Okay. And remember, we're on a podcast. We got guys that are listening, so you got to be kind of detailed.
Yep, awesome. So basically, we're an over front. So end of the day, we're going to set the front. We have front rules. We're going to set the front to. We have set rules for an attached tight end. That's usually where we're going to set the front to. If there's no attached tight end, well then, at the end of the day, you want to set the front where you think they're going to run the football. So it's as basic as that. And that goes from film study and breakdowns, with all the Y off stuff nowadays. Are they going to run the ball to the Y? Are they going to bring them across the formation? Are they going to run split zone? Are they going to run gap schemes, power counters? That's all stuff you as a coach have to figure out. But like Rick said, you have to, kind of have a plan, but then, always be adaptable within that plan. So we're going to set our front. We're an over front. We have a 3 technique. And then on the back side, we have a shade or a 2-eye, depending on, a lot of things. Again, we base out of a shade, but, where's the back? Is he in a pistol? Is he a sidecar? Is he even with the quarterback? Is he behind the quarterback? There's all kinds of cheats there that we teach our kids. Our defensive ends, if there's an attached tight end, we start out with a 9 technique. And to the other side, there's a 5 technique. So we're outside eye of the tackle, we're outside eye of the tight end. And that's our base over front. All right, pretty simple there. Our linebackers. So linebacking, getting lined up is, again, very, very simple. And I can show you the end zone copy as well. But here's our Y off tight end here. So for whatever reason in this game, we set the front away from the Y. So maybe they were a big split zone team. You could see the plays inside zone insert. So they're going to move him around. So for whatever reason, we decided to set the front away from him. But nonetheless, these linebackers have gaps. So day one camp rules, we always talk about what gap you have. But that very quickly changes because we don't want our kids to play like robots and just fit in certain gaps. We kind of talk about open windows and closed windows. And again, go into great detail on my courses on CoachTube and Glazier Drive. You can learn more about that. But nonetheless, we're at about 5 yards. Our Mike, we back him up to about 5.5, and he's at 5. If you are a linebacker in our defense, all right, the Mike is always in a strong 10. So where's the strength? The strength's to the right. So take a 1 technique inside eye of the guard and back it up to 5.5 yards. That's our Mike. He's in a strong 10. Both of our linebackers, our outside backers, all right, you call them a Sam and a Will. We're a field and boundary based defense. So again, just to be able to defend all these tempo teams, we want to be able to get lined up. I think getting lined up is probably 60 to 70% of high school football, of any football really. If you can't get lined up with all the pre-snap RPOs you're seeing, all the tempo, then you're going to be at a huge disadvantage. So our outside linebackers are always in a 40 eye. So inside eye of that tackle on both sides, unless they have a removed number 2 receiver. So if you look up top here, we always count receivers outside in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So down the bottom here, do I have a removed number 2? Yes. So then we do what we call apex, which is basically just split the difference. All right. Up here for this outside linebacker, does he have a removed number 2? No, 2's in the core. All right. So he's in his 40 40 technique right there. So it's very easy. As an outside backer, do I have a number 2 receiver removed? Yes. Well, then at apex. If I don't, then I'm in the core. So getting lined up is very, very simple. On the back end, our corners, we believe strongly. And the biggest question I get in all of my talks that I give on defensive football is, Coach, we're not good enough to play press coverage. All right. So we are a press coverage, quarters-based defense. So doing this and coaching 8 years as a head coach, 5 as a defensive coordinator, we've had a variety of corners. We are one of the bigger schools in the state of Pennsylvania. We're right near the top. We have graduated, about 1,600 kids when I was there in 2020. So we're not huge compared to some, but on our side of the state, it's pretty big. But we play press quarters. So on the outside, regardless if you have a 4-4 kid that's going to go play Division I football, or if you have a 4-7, 4-8 kid that's not going to play football at all, you can still be very successful out there based on technique, right? Because just long story short, we're going to take the inside away. We're going to play inside leverage press technique. And this is all, again, based on a normal alignment. So coaches, if you're in a car listening, this is a normal wide receiver alignment. He's not in a condensed split. He's not snug. He's not extra wide. I'm talking just a normal alignment on the numbers. We're going to be inside eye. We're going to try to be able to smell his breath. We're going to be as close as we can to the line of scrimmage without being offsides. Because what we're doing now, every offensive football team in America, and Coach Stewart could probably, agree with this. When you coach offensive football, he mentioned 7-on-7 a little bit earlier when we were talking off the air. Every offensive football team in America starts and they go throw routes on air, right? Before they even get to 7-on-7, they throw routes on air versus nobody. So these receivers out here are so used to just having a free release and running their, 12-yard back to 10 comeback, or their little speed out or whatever they're running. And it's usually, unabated. By press alignment now, we constantly create a disruption for them. And we found over the years that even if you have a high level upper tier quarterback, it makes it very, very difficult and ultimately throws off the timing quite a bit for them. So that's our number 1 reason to do it. Number 2, by being in a press alignment and being a little bit inside leverage, right from the get-go, from the snap of the ball, we automatically cut their routes in half. So again, barring high level type kids, barring a high level type passing game where, some of these teams are going to diamond release, they might fake out, might go in, go back out, all that stuff. You're taking away half the passing tree. So if this receiver is going to inside release on me as a cornerback, and all I'm doing is drawing up an inside stem on the corner, there's only a few routes he can do. All right. He can run an inside release, fin route, or a 5-yard in. He can run an inside release slant. He can run an inside release, go up to 10 yards and run a dig. And then he can run inside release and either run a go or a deep post. Nonetheless, as a cornerback, I know if he inside releases, he's 90% of the time, probably even higher than that, he's running an inside breaking route. Conversely to that, if he outside releases, well, what's he going to do? It's even less. All right. It's going to be a go route. It's going to be, a comeback, a deep comeback, 15 back to 12-yard comeback. And I hate to say it now, at the college level, they'll do it because at Pitt we do run press on the outside. But in the high school level, if you run press, guess what route you're never seeing? You're not going to see any hitches. You're not going to see any stop routes. It's very, very, very rare. And if you do, that's because the kids probably forgot to convert it on the offensive side of the ball. So we just like that because it kind of, we practice it. Our kids know it. Hey, it's an outside release, what we're going to do, what we're going to see, and what to expect. So it's just stuff that, again, we kind of hang our hat on. This is what we're going to do. And if you do have a kid out there you feel might be a little under, not as athletic as you think, well, there's ways to give them help. You can press bail. We give him different tools in his toolbox he's able to pull from, all within the structure of our defense.
We're the same way. The field and boundary is a big deal because in high school football, I think coordinators are very, very field-based. But are you ever not field boundary? Will you ever set your strength or set your defense to tight ends, receivers, or backs?
Yeah, 100%. Field boundary is just our alignment. So that's how we get aligned. Now, obviously, if there's formation into the boundary, that could screw some things up. But for the most part, our field players go to the field, our boundary players go to the boundary. And now how we set the front and how we set the strength of our defense is all based on, different factors. Like I said, an attached tight end, if it's Y off, where you're going to set it. And then usually if there's trips, that's a big factor as well. Usually in trips, we like to set the front to the boundary, which then allows our linebackers to bump out to the field a little bit. And it allows that Mike to play out, the probably one of the most trendiest plays in football right now in the RPO games, the stick draw, right? And that's the number one beater of a 4-2-5 or a 4-3 defense. Really puts that Mike in a bind. So by setting the front to the boundary, now you're able to widen that Mike out a little bit to the field. And he's able to play that stick and be able to play his gap at the same time. And again, there's other answers for that, but generally speaking, that's what we do. And again, coach, is very versatile. We can do whatever we want based on game plan. But again, I think, like you said, hanging your hat on something, there's got to be something you start with. And then from there, you can adjust and be versatile.
Coach, I'm sure in your journey, you researched and made a decision. Maybe it was as a player. Why flop your players? Why not just always leave this defensive end on the left and this defensive on the right? What do you see the advantages of having boundary players and field players?
Yeah, I have a very good answer for that. I'm not sure exactly how to say it. I know there's a niche term out there for it, but it's you're learning one thing. So my field linebacker here, he gets really good at playing the field linebacker, because if he plays 100 snaps in a season, which he's going to play more than that, but just keeping the numbers easy. If he plays 100 snaps in a football season of defense as the field backer or on defense, I bet you 90 of those are in this field position. Now, obviously, like I said, if you get formation to the boundary, stuff like that, there might be times where we put him into the boundary, but he gets really good at that position, right? Our field end, certain things we ask him to do, our field tackle, our field backer, our field safety, our field corner, they get really good. And that's really all they ever practice, again, unless we're seeing a team that'll put us in a bind. And I kind of got that, Rick, from when I was on the offensive side of the ball back in 2013. I believe it was 13, 14, 15. One of those years I took my staff down and we went down to Baylor when they were hot with all their really max spread. So I was coaching offense at the time. Our Browse, and they were really hot with the max spread receiver. And if you remember, and I still think they don't do this, and I know a lot of offensive teams still do this, they don't switch the receivers. The Z always to the right, the X is always to the left, and they got really good at running routes. So if I'm the Z receiver, I'm always on the right. Every post I ever runs from the right. So it's kind of that same philosophy of, same thing on offense. I don't know how true this is, but from a very good source that Gus Malzahn, when he was at Auburn, he only ran power to the right and counter to the left, right? Because I know when I was calling plays, one of the big dilemmas was, well, crap, we're running power. So we got to be able to run power to the right and we got to run power to the left. And I always felt that was such a waste of practice time. Well, hey, if you could just tell me I'm only going to run power to the right and counter to the left, I just I gained so many more reps there to practice some other things that I needed to do. And so I kind of carried that philosophy over to defense, just kind of really focusing in on what they need to get good at and sticking with that, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, Coach, I want to echo that. Our as we talked about, I live in California, but I get flown to Pennsylvania. So time is kind of crucial for me. I'm there for the month of June to do the 7-on-7 stuff. Then I show up 2 days and I got to roll. So I haven't been with the kids in the spring. And our pistol wing T system that, again, is on my website, theallaccesscoaching.com. Coach, that's what we do, just to simplify things. We run belly one way, we run counter the other way. We'll run jet both ways, but a lot of the plays that involve intricate pulling and blitz pickups, we just run it one ways. And, we've won 32 games in 3 years. And coach is like, well, it's varsity football and they're going to adjust. And you're only, I'm going to, pardon my French, I'm going to call bullshit. Because you get really good at the plays that way. And yeah, if defenses overcompensate for that tendency, well, then we have counters. But yeah, coach. And then it comes down to practice reps, right? If I'm going to run every play in my playbook both ways, same as you, if you were going to, not flop your defense, that field backer would have to get reps also in practice of being a boundary backer. So now you introduce more reps in practice to get good at playing both sides of the center line. And I think when you cut it in half and say, look, we're only going to do this on this side and we're going to do this on this side, our 4-2-5 is the same way. We run that split field concept. And that's what we say, hey, you guys are going to get really good over here and you guys are going to get really good over there. So I really want to echo that.
Yep. No, totally agree. Totally agree. And I think it carries over to all football. I really do. Even special teams, let the kids be good at something, because the biggest thing we fight in high school, and I think it's a time to go and keeping it fun and all that stuff. Let the kids get good at something, because you only have so many reps at it, and there's nothing worse. And this is probably something I'll stand and say till I die. There's nothing worse that you can do to a kid or to a team, is go out there on a Friday night and call play, or call defense, or call blitz that you didn't practice, or you practice one time, but then the kid does it wrong and you expect them, he comes off the field and you berate him because he did it wrong. Well, coach, we didn't practice that play. We ran that play one time this whole week. So exactly. I think shame on you, or shame on the coach that does that. And that's a big thing we kind of really focused on our time at Pine Richland, is really making sure what we were practicing, we were running, and we were calling in a game. And it takes a little time. You got to, make sure you're spending more time prepping for practice, but I think it goes a long way for, the success of a football team.
Do you ever set the 3-tech to the weak side? Sometimes I hear about coaches, they like to set the 3-tech away from the quarterback's throwing arms. I've heard that a lot. So you kind of play your games with your shades there on the inside?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of things, the back, the quarterback's arm, the fullback, H-back, Y, whatever you want to call them. It all comes down to tendencies. What are they trying to do? What are you trying to take away? What causes us problems? Well, if we set our 3 technique here, it enables us to do this. So again, it all comes back to, like you said, buying into whatever it is you're going to run, and learning the ins and outs of it, and what's good, what's bad, what's strong, what's weak. But yeah, we have all kinds of answers, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So you're exactly right.
Coach, getting into some specific techniques, I'm assuming with the D-line, are all 4 guys wrong shoulder guys?
So that is definitely something that we talk about a lot, but no, exact opposite. All 4 guys are box players. Our entire defense is, we want to box the football. And I do have some slides on that. And again, I got a whole course on stopping the run, again, both on Glazier Drive and on Coach Tube. But looking at it from this point here, he's in a 2-eye. Again, we could be in a G or a 2-eye. We allow him to line up based on whatever we're telling him. So he might be looking at, well, look at the sniffer. He's tighter. So we want to line up in a 2-eye. If he was wider, maybe we want to be in a G. We're in a 3 technique right here. We're in a wide 5 here. We're in a tighter 5 here. And again, you ask why? Well, a lot of that's based on film study and where we want our kids to be. Linebacker's in a 10, strong 10. He's in a 40. And again, he's apex from the tackle to the receiver. We are going to box the football, coach. So again, I say this, day one, we box the football. We want these defensive ends, again, they're not going to come up the field, but just for illustration purposes, they're going to box the football. We're going to create a big, we're green, so a big green wall. He's going to be in the A gap. He's going to be in the B gap. Linebacker's in the A gap. He's in the B gap. So if you look at that picture right there, we got a big wall. There's nowhere to go. All right. Now, with that being said, any movements we have, there's times where we'll slant the front. We might run a little pirate right here. We might slant both of these guys and bring him off the edge. So when you do that type of thing, well, now, obviously, just say on this side, say they're going to run power here. They're going to go down, 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 and I'm drawing up power to a Y off. So the Y off, the sniffer, right, the fullback is going to kick out our defensive end. So in base defense, we're going to box the football. We're going to hit that with our inside shoulder. All right, try to take as much air out of it as we can. We're going to fill our gap. We're going to fill over the top because we're probably going to have a puller. And now my safety is here. He's my free hitter. But if we run the little stunt I just said, a little pirate stunt here, so he's going to go in the B gap and he's going to come in the C gap. Well, now when this tackle block's down, my defensive end, who now is a B gap player, instead of boxing the football, he's going to spill the fullback now, which will then in turn spill the ball out right to my linebacker. And then I also have my free hitter here, my boundary safety here as well. So anytime we move, anytime we run little stunts, we communicate very clearly. This is almost built into the call with each other, whether we are box players or spill players. I think that's one of the most critical things of playing defensive football is understanding your run fits. And that's something we spend a lot of time on. And again, I got a full course on run fits for you guys to take a look at. But so, Coach, to answer your question, at the end of the day, if we see 100 runs, we're probably going to end up probably boxing 60% of them, but we're going to probably spill 40% of those based on movements, auto adjustments we have in game based on where the fullback's at. Hey, we know they have a 80% tendency to run power here. Well, we know we probably want to spill power. So then we'll call this little stunt here, or maybe it's built in and I'll allow the linebacker to call it. So little things like that I think really, again, keeps offenses off balance, because we all know as an offense, hey, we're playing this team. They run an over front. They're going to be lined up this, and that's how they practice it all week. But all of a sudden now we put it on the kids. Now we're moving a little bit. We're doing some stunts. We're lined up a little differently. It makes it really hard on those guys to move the football.
Coach, I am so glad you said that. I learned my defense years ago from a real successful coach in California named Tim Murphy. He's averaged 15 wins a year for 10 or 12 years. He has to play Dallas Style every year. They play real high level football like you do. And he was a near shoulder team in boxing. And he says, hey, we're gonna funnel everything back inside where all of our players are. And I just bought and ran with it. And that's what we did. And we were having success. And I had no reason to rethink it because what we were doing was working. Exactly what you're saying. Well, then I get on the Glazier circuit and all these guys they think I'm an idiot. They're like, well, you have to wrong shoulder. You have to wrong shoulder. And I'm thinking, what do you mean I have to wrong shoulder? What rule says that? We're giving up 8 points a game with what we're doing. I'm not going to change it. But all the college guys, and so I'm really glad to hear that you kind of a near shoulder. They say, wrong shoulder and bounce it. Well, if I don't have a really athletic team and the other team's more athletic than me, that running back's going to get a D2, D1 scholarship. And, my kid's going to be working at the sporting goods store after he graduates. I'm not sure I want to bounce that D1 running back to my safety who runs a 4.840. Coach, you're 3-tech, even your inside guys, because I know the guy driving his car is listening to us right now thinking, well, what about guard trap? You're going to near shoulder the guard trap?
Yep. Oh, yeah. So I guess I should have said that. So when I say we're going to box the football, that's with our defensive ends. Our base rule is to box the football. Any interior player, so our 3-tech, heck, our nose, not that anybody in their right mind is going to try to trap a nose or a shade. Our linebackers here, so if they would get ISO or some sort of lead or some sort of insert, these guys are all going to spill or wrong shoulder their football. Any interior player is going to spill because we want to put everything out to our big defensive ends here who's boxing the football. Now, like I said, if we have any stunts or anything going on, then that'll change. But yes, that's a good point. I forgot to mention, Coach.
Good. Yeah, we're the same way. Our interior guys, wrong shoulder spill, our defense ends box. And we talk about squeezing the alley. And we always say we want to let that running back cut up inside our DNs because we're going to put him in a phone booth and it's going to be that running back with 3 guys. And Coach, you hit the run fits. That's huge. Coach, we hit run fits every day, whether it's in pod work or half line stuff. How often are you emphasizing those run fits?
Yeah, I mean, off season camp, every day of practice. Then we really try to what's the word? Specify our practice based on who we're playing. If we're playing a 10 personnel RPO team, well, we're not going to do an inside run. We're going to replace our inside run period with RPO period, right? Give them the reads they want to see. Now, in the state playoffs last year, we played Governor Mifflin, who was they're out your way, Coach. I think a little more.
Oh, they're loaded. They're loaded.
Yeah,
Coaches,
loaded.
Governor Mifflin is absolutely loaded. Athletes everywhere.
Yep. So I think the tailback Singleton just got named the National Player of the Year. But anyway, we played him as a junior. They were beating us. Kind of go off tangent here. They were beating us early by like 14. We came back and got it within 7. And then in the second half, they went up, I think, 24. And we came back to beat them in the fourth quarter to go to the state finals. Ultimately went on to win the state championship. But that was a heck of a game. But back to my point, they're an old school I formation veer midline team, something we never see, right? Never ever see. So that was new to us. So we had to, obviously we didn't do any 7-on-7 that week, right? It was inside run period 1, veer midline, inside run period 2. They did a little traditional toss sweep, ISO lead, right? And that's kind of how we structured our practice. So very, very, very much tailor our practice within a game week to our opponent. Now, some weeks that's easy. Some weeks that's hard. One team we play, a couple of years ago, our big rival here in Pittsburgh, North Allegheny High School, they're always known for again, they don't throw it much, but they run it, but they always have like 3 different offenses. Like they have a little bit of a wing T, they got a little bit of the I formation, power counter, and then they got a little bit of the spread to run stuff. So we would actually hold 3 inside run periods, 1 for each of those. And I really like breaking it down for the kids. All right, guys, here's our wing T period. When they come on the wing T, this is our thought process. When they come on this is our thought process. And it really, I think, helps the kids, learn throughout the week.
Coach, just back up the second level. You were a linebacker, successful at Pitt. The always the debate I get the Glazier clinics is not when they're blitzing, but how do you teach your inside linebackers to take on blocks? There's the ISO right up the middle. Do they take it on with their inside shoulder, outside shoulder? Then when they're scraping, what shoulder do they use? There's kind of 3 basic, and correct me if I'm wrong if you have more, but in my mind, there's kind of 3 fits. There's the inside linebacker we call tough reads when they're playing up inside A and B gap. There's the scrape when they're coming off into the C gap and kind of get it downhill. And then there's the jet stuff, right? And we call that the fly technique, where you just got to take off because they're trying to get the perimeter. Coach, take us through some of it's the run fits, but your technique for those inside backers.
Yeah, and without going into too much detail with it, and this is one thing, Coach, too, and I talk a lot about in my courses. we coach it, but you got to, we really talk about trying not to overcoach it. We want our kids to be our philosophy on defense is to be freaking aggressive, be downhill. We want to stop the run. So with that being said, we're going to be flying to the ball, ultra aggressive to stop the run, almost to a fault. But with that being said, inside guys, yeah, we're going to take the ball on. Again, we want to spill everything to the defensive end on their respective side. So if they're running, let me go to the end zone copy here, and I'm just running weak side ISO, right? Weak side ISO. So they block down on our shade. The guard's going to block down on the shade. The tackle's going to block out on the defensive end. Well, my linebacker right there in the B gap is going to fit that. Now he's going to try to blow him up. And again, I'd much rather him blow the dude up than worry about, hey, I got to hit this with my one shoulder or not. But he's taught he wants to spill everything out to this DN. So in a perfect world, he's going to hit that with his outside shoulder right through the center of the fullback, hit it with his outside shoulder and force that ball out to the defensive end, which would then entail go to our unblocked boundary safety sitting right there. So again, I'd much rather err on the side of just blowing it up and be a tough MFer versus, what shoulder to hit it on. Because, you go back to the thought process. I spent a lot of time with Don Brown when he was at Michigan. He calls it a dent technique. He don't call it wrong shoulder or wrong arm because he doesn't like the 1-for-1. He wants to hit them square and dent them and create pushback, because by then we're going to be so attacking that it's going to cause enough guys to get to the ball anyway. But you're right. You have to have a starting point. Downhill, we're ultra thick. I use the word thick a lot. Any type of interior A gap, B gap run, you want to be super thick on the fullback or whoever it is blocking you. If there's any type of guard pull off tackle play, well, then we are going to, like exactly what you said, scrape, rip and run, right? And that would kind of entail, that's really the only 2 we use, because ripping and running, that would be the same as if it was a wide perimeter, old school toss sweep. We're ripping and running. We're not trying to be thick. We're trying to dip, rip, and avoid contact if we can, right? But ultimately, you always got to understand where your help's coming from. So if you are going to take a chance and come underneath, is it okay in that situation? But ultimately, even like I said, Rick, to a fault, we want to be super ultra aggressive, because then we could always back them off.
And the what I fell in love with the 4-2-5 as I went to study these guys, and the 4-3-4-2-5, you're kind of splitting hairs. They're almost the same defense. We call our safeties the adjusters, and we tell our safeties that you got to make that linebacker right. I don't know if you want to touch on that with your third level guys, because that linebacker comes in and he blows it up, right? And he ends up a little bit inside. So now there's a little bit of gap that opens up between the inside backer and your defensive end, because your inside linebacker got kind of caught up inside real aggressively. Well, then we teach our safety, then you're going to fit right there between the backer and end. If the backer ends up blowing it with a little bit of an outside shade where the running back's got a little crease to cut back, we tell our safety, well, then that's where you've got to fit. I don't know if you touch on your safety play with the run fits.
Yep, you're exactly right. And we do exactly what you said. Make the person in front of you right. We're super ultra aggressive, and we always start up front with the D line. All right, aggressive, attack. We're going to stop the run, react to the pass. So that's kind of how we teach it. Now, when I say attack, that doesn't mean run up the field. We want to attack your technique. And that, again, I go into that, if you're a 5 technique, your technique is the outside shoulder of that tackle. If he blocks down, well, I better not be up the field. I better be attacking that technique. But like you said, if we get reached, if we get scooped, well, Well, then the next level, the linebackers, they're going to make them right. And kind of what I touched on at the beginning, I said, well, hey, the Mike linebacker's got the A gap. Well, yeah, he has the A gap, but what happens if, the 3 technique gets reached? Well, now the 3 technique's in the A gap. Well, the Mike better make him right and go to the B gap. So we teach them gaps, but we really talk about open and closed windows, right? And then finally, exactly like you mentioned, our safeties, they're our cleanup guys, right? They don't have a gap. There's times where we couldn't put them in a run fit, but they hardly ever are primary run fitters. So we basically old school, basic caveman type defense, see ball, get ball. Now they do have parameters they need to work in, right? Do I have a number 2 receiver, blah, blah, blah. But for instance, in this picture here, which is basically a 2-by-1 set, our fullback, he's to the weak side, pistol formation with the tailback. My boundary safety, he's in charge in the pass game if 2 goes vertical. Well, the fullback's tucked in the A gap. So I really highly doubt he's going vertical. So he knows I don't have a vertical threat. So if he sees low hat, if he sees run, well, he's going to see ball and get ball. He's our extra hitter in this set. So making the guys right. The ball bounces, which it shouldn't, right? Because I said at the beginning, we're going to box everything. If it's going to break through, it should hit in the inside somewhere. That means somebody missed a tackle because, based on our philosophy, there's no open gaps. But like you said, you get a 4-2-5 guy, a 4-3 guy, 4-4 guy, he bounces the ball outside. Well, here's my free hitter ready to make that defensive end right who let the ball outside of him.
Coach, this has been great stuff. Last question, and we'll kind of wrap up on this topic. I'm gonna get you off the run fits. You talk about being in that press man. Let's get a little bit into not the passing game, but alignments of the spread sets. So when they get out in 2-by-2s and 3-by-1s, are you still pressing the corners, and then your safeties and backers are adjusting 2 and 3, and maybe you're doing, I'm guessing maybe some sort of, if you're going to be pressing one, maybe you're in some sort of palms or mix it on the inside. How do you're still pressing then the 2-by-2s and 3-by-1s?
Yep. So 2-by-2, yeah, the two different worlds for us. Rick, 2-by-2, 100% we're pressing. Same rules, safety, inside leverage, you evolve 2, safety, you evolve 2. If they run 4 verticals, it's going to be cover 0, Rick. And that's what I tell a lot of people. You look at any of my courses, I'm a big believer in blitzing, but not necessarily man blitzing, because our base defensive quarters, if they run 4 verticals, it ends up being cover 0. So we're very well aware of that though. So yeah, we press on the outside. Safety's got all 2 underneath coverage. We match all of our linebackers with routes. And again, that's a whole nother talk. If you go to 3-by-1,
well, then, Coach, backing up. So what if it's not 4 verticals? If that number 2 slot receiver runs a speed out or a bubble, you're matching that with the backer then?
Yep, exactly right. Our outside backers are matched 2 players. So they have all of number 2 up to 5 yards and out, right? Any type of under route, they'll pass off. So the safeties have all of number 2, anything beyond what we call the hard deck. The hard deck is, right around 5 yards. So anything 5 yards or more, then the linebacker would ultimately try to get a reroute on number 2. But then if he runs, a dig, a post, a go, a corner, and out, that's 100% the safety now. Okay, so we're going to match all underneath routes. And again, you have certain rules with wheels and all that stuff. But basic rules is the backer has everything under 5, safety has everything over 5. Exactly right. Now
that's easy. That's easy.
Yep, and we're not going to chase immediate crossers across the ball. We're going to pass those off. Again, we're trying to match routes as much as we can there. 3-by-1. So again, I have a whole course on 3-by-1 adjustments because that's in vogue right now, right? You play any team nowadays, I don't care what it is, they're going to have some sort of 3-by-1 set. And when I say 3-by-1, it could be 3-by-1 speed, or it could be 3-by-1 with the Y off, tight end type body, right? That I think is really, really in vogue now. But nonetheless, here's a picture here, 3-by-1 with a Y off. We're still going to press on the outside on both sides, still playing base defense, inside leverage at number 2. Now, the only difference is my boundary safety, who's looking for his number 2 receiver, he doesn't have one over there because it's 3-by-1. So what he has to do is he cross keys the number 3 receiver on the other side. So again, if all 3 of them go vertical, the corners will have number 1 and number 3. Again, in most offensive football, when they go 4 verticals, they have landmarks. So 3 more times than not, it's going to come back to him, and our boundary safety is going to end up taking his 3 vertical. But again, underneath, we still have linebackers matching routes. He's going to match 2. My Mike's going to match 3. And again, anything past 5, they're going to try to reroute as best we can to give those safeties time and help, right? If I put out there, Jordan Addison at Pitt, who just won the Blitnikoff at the number 2 receiver and said, run vertical. I don't care who you put there at safety. If he doesn't get help or get hands on or get rerouted, you could put Superman back there and it's going to be tough for him to cover a guy like that. So there's a lot of intricacies in that you need help with underneath.
For the guy driving his car, what coach was talking about, the outside backer who's apexing in trips, he's matching number 2 shallow routes, and the Mike backer who's in the trip side A gap, he's matching number 3 shallow routes.
Exactly right. And then this is the case 3-by-1, where if you have the running back and he would run out the weak side to the boundary, this is one of our rule breakers where the boundary backer, whether you want to call him a will, all right, or a bandit, we call him a bandit because he's a boundary backer, he would have to carry that wheel route out of the backfield, because I just said the boundary safety, he's cross keying the number 3 receiver to the field. So that's one rule that we put in on day one that they know, and we handle very easily, to be honest. So, and again, that's a matchup. If they got a stud back there, then maybe you need to have another answer for that. But that's
do those matches don't change when it's an extended 3-by-1 and it's not an off tight end or tray set? I'm assuming it's same reason you just take the backers out a little bit more.
You're exactly right. Same reads, but based on experience and based on what we do, we're very well aware that that creates some issues for us. So if we would get 3 speed, we call it 3 speed with pure 10 personnel. There's a lot of times where we make one of our 3 or 4 main 3-by-1 adjustments. And that's what you see in the picture here. One of our main ones is to the trips. We're not going to press anymore. We're going to pull off and basically, play a version of cover 3 is all it is. And it kind of that split field coverage to the field, to the trips, playing split field into the boundary. We have 4 or 5 different, adjustments we can make to the boundary. We could play cover 2 back here. We could play cone technique back here. We can man-to-man back here. And now my boundary safety is kind of my poach player, my extra hitter in the run game. We can have him double number 1. We can have him double 3 across, whatever we want to do. So there's multiple variety. And that's the beauty of split field coverage, is you can do some of that stuff. But again, we have our base way to play it, Rick. Doesn't mean we always play it that way. That's how we teach it because it fits in our system. But we know the weaknesses of it, and we adjust accordingly week to week based on who we're playing.
So in that traditional 3-by-1, you guys driving your car, all 3 receivers are extended out in the trips, and this film he's got cut. I can tell the team in the red looks pretty dang athletic. Coach, those guys, the extended apex backer, the trip safety, and the trips corner, they're kind of setting what they're doing. What you're doing with your calls is you're playing games with the safety opposite the trips. You've got a lot of games there you can play. You can tell that safety, hey, let's worry about number 1. Or you can tell that safety, hey, you're going to worry about the run because it's a running quarterback. Or, hey, safety, we're going to solo up on the backside and we're going to bring you over to help on trips. So your calls really are affecting the safety away from the trips. Am I correct? You're
exactly right. If they got RG3 at the quarterback, well, I'm going to make a call most of the time where that boundary safety, he's my extra guy in the run, because when that quarterback pulls it, I got an extra hat there. If they got a stud receiver at the X, which a lot of offenses do, well, then maybe I play cover 2 back there, or maybe I say, hey, let's double that number 1 receiver to the boundary. They're stud, right? Or like you said, maybe they got a little fast little slot to the trips here to the field. And now I could take that boundary safety and poach him over to 3. I can have him double there, look for cutters, all that kind of stuff. Very versatile. And again, able to take away what the offense does best.
And again, all your stuff under 5, even though number 3 is now detached, 6-7 feet away from that tackle, your Mike backer and your Sam backer on trips, they're taking care of the stuff under 5.
Exactly. My outside backer to the trips is still he's a match. I don't say match now, because in our adjustment, we're not matching it, but he's still a number 2 player, right? He's going to reroute 2. He's going to sit in the 3. Think cover 3, right? Ends up being a flat player. My Mike is going to come out and wall or reroute number 3, right? And my boundary backer here, my bandit, my will, again, he's still going to relate to 2. And depending on the coverage, if we're singled up, he might be man on the back. If it's cover two, he might sit in the curl or hook window, right? He's extra. I can blitz him and man up the boundary safety. There are a lot of adjustments there that we can do.
Awesome. Coach, this is a great talk, man. I'm a weak T guy and I do call the offense, but man, I love talking defense. I love talking defense. I wouldn't mind 1 year to be a D coordinator myself, but so coach, if coaches want more, how they get a hold of you. I know there's the Glazier Drive and there's Coach Tube. You want to talk a little bit about how coaches can get a hold of you? Who knows what the future lies? You may be back as a high school head coach next year and not at Pitt. So how do coaches find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, my future's still unknown. I think I'd like to get back to the high school deal. At least, I got a young family and finish that out. But yeah, I got a whole system on Glazier Drive, defensive system from how to get lined up to the very intricate details of different pressures. And I think there's 23 or 24 different courses on there. And I also got, I think 5 or 6 courses on Coach Tube as well. Very detailed stuff. I got a couple offensive courses on there as well. And plus I'm speaking at a bunch of the Glazier stuff coming up here, in the future months. It's good to be back out on the road, getting to meet coaches. Because hey, I do a lot of presenting, but believe you me, when I'm not in there, I'm sitting in the other coaches' rooms, learning from them, and there's nothing better than just being in there and sitting there, at a bar, at a restaurant, being able to talk ball with, guys.
What cities are you speaking at this year for 2022?
I'm speaking in St. Louis. I think that's the 3rd or 4th week of February, and then the 2nd week of February I'm in DC, Virginia, Northern Virginia, DC. So looking forward.
Coach, I'll buy you a beer. I'm in St. Louis. I'm excited. I've never been to St. Louis. I know a couple years ago I went to Kansas City and I took my wife and they said you got to do the barbecue, right? And they weren't kidding. Holy moly! So I'm excited about St. Louis, Coach. We'll make sure we have a beer and talk a little bit. So in the Glazier Drive, your system's up there. You've got your stuff on Coach Tube. You got 7 or 8 courses. We've got the courses up for the coaches to see on the screen right now. If you're watching YouTube, Coach Tube stuff. Coach, explain a little bit about these forums and Q&A, and you do some weekly Zoom sessions, I think, with Glazier.
Yeah, with Glazier, we're on weekly, so check out the Glazier site. But yeah, I think weekly we've been doing in the afternoon. I believe it's Tuesdays, Mondays or Tuesdays. Yeah, we jump on for about an hour every week. So any questions you have, I'm on there and just basically doing what we're doing here, just open question and answer. So if you have any questions about anything, jump on there. I got about 7 or 8 guys that are on every week, and we just talk ball, just like you would with anybody else. So it's a great opportunity just to kind of, if there's a question, heck, I'll probably ask you a couple questions, but yeah, just being on there talking ball. So.
Coach, is the stuff on Coach Tube and the stuff on the Drive, is it the same thing? Is there a reason you would need to go to both places?
No, it is different. I got my whole defensive system on Glazier Drive, and then on Coach Tube, there's 4 or 5 different courses. I know a couple of the adjustments are on there. I believe my offensive stuff's on there as well. So it is some different stuff.
Coach, I thought I saw something about being a head coach. Do you have a kind of a program organizational one?
That's something I take a lot of pride in is just how to develop a championship program. And it's from square one, and we go so into depth about, just building a program. If you're a young coach looking to be a head coach, maybe it's your first year as a head coach, maybe it's your 4th year and you don't like the direction you're going, but everything from youth programs to booster to developing a culture. Because that's something when I took over as a head coach, my number one goal in this, catch kind of hot term now, but changing the culture. And that's something that I think is imperative. But changing the culture of the program that you're at, we go into all that. I have a full slideshow on kind of my game plan, my blueprint, and kind of how we went about things at Pioneer.
Coaches, I can vouch. I got on Coach Tube and watched his program course. That's why I asked that question. I knew it was there. There's a link in the show notes, and there's a link down in the YouTube description, coaches. If you want to link to that on just being a successful head coach. I mean, the guy's won 85 games and 2 state titles at the highest level in Pennsylvania. Coach, this has been awesome. Coaches that are listening or watching, will make sure that we have all the links below. This video and the podcast will be available at allaccesscoaching.com as well as theglazierdrive.com. Again, this was brought to you by Rack Performance. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, make sure you subscribe, as we do 3 podcasts every week. They're always free. Every Monday, we interview a coach or partner from the Glazier Drive family. That's how we got Coach on today. Thursdays, I interview the coaches from the All Access coaching family. There's about 17 of us on the allaccesscoaching.com website with our systems, and we do webinars and stuff also. On Sunday nights, it's just me rambling. You just want to hear Rick Stewart talking about program building, wing T, 4-2-5 defense, and strength training. These podcasts and the downloads that go with them are always free. You can find them at Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else podcasts are found. There's also tons of free PowerPoints, PDFs, and webinars at both the Glazier Drive and the All Access Coaching website. Want to make sure that we have free resources out there to help the next generation of coaches. It's very important in this industry that we pay it forward. Make sure you follow me on Coach Rick Stewart Twitter account, my Coach Rick Stewart Facebook page, and the YouTube channel, which is All Access Coaching YouTube channel, where we upload 3 videos a week. Coach, gosh, thank you. A fellow Pennsylvanian. I guess, I don't know if I can call myself a Pennsylvanian. I stay there. Coach, I leave before it starts snowing, so maybe I'm not officially a Pennsylvanian, but excited. I can't wait to have a beer with you in St. Louis, Coach.
Yeah, look forward to it, man. Great to have to be on here. Great to talk some ball, and appreciate all you do for the game.